Back again, episode 2. Thanks for tuning in again, especially if this is your second time watching. If it's your first time watching, watch our other one, Call of the Wild. Today we're going to be talking about the game Death Stranding for PS4. And we're just going to kind of discuss what we think of it. We've both put some decent hours into it. Steven made it to the second half, or the second area. I am almost finished with the second area, so we put some time into it. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, so we haven't touched Death Stranding. But we're just going to kind of give our honest opinion on it. So what do you want to say about the game, bud?
I think it's fun. Really fun.
Okay, well, what is the premise of the game? Like, what do you do mainly in the game?
You're a porter.
And what is a porter for people that don't know what that is?
A deliverer.
A deliverer? A delivery person?
Yep.
Okay, how do you deliver things? What are the different ways you can deliver things in the game?
You can either walk, eventually you can take a motorcycle, or a truck.
Okay, so far. There might be more ways. Oh, and then there's also the cargo carriers that you can pull behind you.
And there's a cargo carrier.
Which is kind of cool. You can string them together and make kind of like a train behind you of these little hover carrier things. But they use one of the elements that you collect steadily as you're doing it. So I don't use them ever. Okay, so the objective of the game is to reconnect the cities across the United States, because it's the United Cities of America at this point, because this thing happened where a bunch of people died. And
happened.
Yeah, the Death Stranding happened. These things took over.
BTs. They're called BTs.
Okay, explain more about it.
They're these ghosts things. Really weird. I don't really know how to explain them. They're just really creepy.
They're basically these ghost things that you can't see unless you use this special ability that you get. And they have these weird like umbilical cord looking things coming off of them. And if you touch them, then these like people come out of this tar and try to drag you to the beach, which is basically like limbo. Is basically how I've gathered it. And luckily in the game, you are somebody who can
repatriate.
Yeah, repatriate. And so when you die, you can actually come back. But when somebody dies, if one of the BTs eats somebody, then it causes like a catastrophic explosion. But yeah, it's by the same guy that created Silent Hill and stuff. It's his first game, I believe, on his new studio since he left the old studio. So the person who stars in it, the main character, is Norman Reedus from Boondock Saints and The Walking Dead. He's the main character. It's got a couple other bigger actors and actresses and stuff in it too, but he's like the main character that you play as. And basically you're a porter that's bringing stuff from one place to another and trying to reconnect everything on the chiral network so that they can communicate and they can unlock information from the past, and they can also print out different things. But yeah, basically you're just taking stuff from point A to point B, trying to reconnect all the cities across the United States, because the United States got destroyed during the Death Stranding. And with the BTs, like there's the BB. Do you want to explain what the BB is?
The BB is a baby inside this weird jar. It's a weirdly shaped jar that he gets kept in, because if he gets out, he dies.
Yep. Do you remember what BB stands for? Okay, it stands for Bridge Baby, and what it is it's basically a bridge between the living and the dead. So that's how you can see the BTs, is by using the Bridge Baby. It's really weird and it's really creepy. Basically, there's like more to the story and stuff that we're not going to get into on like how the BBs are created, and you like start to unlock like more information on what they do and how they work the way they do. But yeah, and then there's different levels of dooms, which if you have dooms, it kills you eventually, but it also puts you in tune with the BTs and the beaches. And so you're like a doom level 2. And so whenever there's a BT around, you can't see it, but you can sense it. So your skin like does this weird thing. But then there's somebody else who's like a 6 or a 7 who can travel to the beach and use it as fast travel. Level 5.
They can travel to the beaches.
Yeah, and then there's the big boss who's a higher level who can actually control the BTs.
Who's a level 7.
Yeah.
And can control the BTs.
Yeah, so graphics-wise, what would you give it out of 10? 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest.
10. I'd say 10.
10? So it's like the best graphics you've ever seen?
It looks really, really realistic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gameplay-wise, after you get into it, because at first it's kind of boring, but do you think it gets more exciting? Like 1 out of 10 gameplay wise, what would you give it?
Oh, I'd say 9.5 or
Yeah.
10. Definitely 10.
10?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing you'd change about the entire game? Okay. I would probably give it about an 8.
The only thing I would like to change is maybe the BTs, but the BTs is what makes like the action.
Well, I would change the building and stuff in it, how you can build stuff. Like, they could improve on that. The vehicles maybe a little bit. Other than that, the gameplay is not bad. I like the fact that like you can use other people's stuff that they built. So if you're on the same server as somebody, they can put in a ladder, and then you can find the ladder, and then you can give them likes. The likes give you like higher score on your delivery, so it
Higher
gives
delivery rating.
Yeah, and with your higher delivery rating, you unlock different things. For the most part, I started out with no weapons, and I've been playing the game for probably about 10, 15 hours, and I just now unlocked like actual weapons to use against humans and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
And he unlocked an anti-BT gun, so he can actually hurt the BTs.
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Eventually, you have to fight them. Soundtrack wise, out of 10, what would you give it?
I'd say the soundtracks would be, I'd say 9.
9? Why?
9 or 10. I think, or 10, because there's a lot of different soundtracks. I don't think you'll run into the same one twice.
Yeah, the songs tend to be very, very different. I really like it because it really like hits the emotion, because there's parts where you'll be like doing certain missions that are supposed to be emotional, and they'll put in a really emotional song as you're walking, and then they also give credit to the ones. It's very cinematic in how it plays out, especially with like the cutscenes, but even just the gameplay is pretty cinematic as well.
Yeah.
So overall, what do you think about the game? Would you recommend the game or not?
I'd recommend the game only if you're patient for a little bit in games. Because if you're patient for a little bit, then it gets interesting. But if not, you wouldn't like the game if you're not patient at first.
I think the gameplay itself gets fairly repetitive, because it's literally pick this up, drop it off here, go through BT territory, go through mule territory. But I think once you get past the repetitiveness, the overall story, the cutscenes, and everything is really interesting. And that's what keeps me playing it. Isn't necessarily the gameplay itself, but I want to know what's going to happen next. And so the story is really well done, which I, expected that because it's from the creator of Silent Hill. So we kind of expected it to have a good story.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to play Silent Hill yet. I want to try it.
Yeah, no, you haven't played Silent Hill, so you don't really have anything to base it off of. But now that you've played this, would you want to play Silent Hill, knowing what kind of games this guy makes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with it. We haven't beat it yet, so I don't know overall, like, game-wise, what we're going to say. So we'll probably come back and review it once we beat it. But we're playing Final Fantasy VII right now, the remake. So once we finish that one, I'm going to have him play through at least part of the original one so we can do a comparison of the two of those. No, definitely, if you've never seen it, check out the preview for it, like the game trailer for it, and give it a shot, especially if you can rent it. We weren't very disappointed in it. Like, the very first part of it is kind of slow and boring because you are carrying everything by hand. You don't have the power skeletons yet or anything. You don't have any of that stuff. And so it is kind of slow going. But then once you start getting more stuff, then it starts getting better the more you unlock on the network and everything. But I would definitely give it a chance if you have a chance to play it, because we've actually been pleasantly surprised. I put off getting it for a very long time just because I couldn't justify spending $60 on a game where you walked around and delivered stuff. But then we got it on sale for, I think, $30. And so I decided to give it a try. And I honestly would have paid the full $60 if I would have known what the game was like. But, yeah, so we're going to stop this here. And we will catch you guys on the next one.